Ooh, what's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another session of Coffee and Martial Arts. Salud, salud, salud. Cheers. Great. And we have a great show today for you. We have a very special guest, Kenpo Black Belt, who's been, around for a while. I'm not going to say how long because he might get mad at me, but he is a truly talented martial artist, and he has very realistic combative approach into the arts and to Kenpo and stuff. So he has a lot of experience. He's been around with a lot of the senior masters as well, and around very talented martial artists. So he has a lot, a big story to tell and lots of details. And, I'm very honored to have him on the show. So without further ado, here we have Maestro Brye Cooper.
How you doing, Frank?
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Good. Top of the morning to you.
Good. Thank you. Good morning. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's really nice to have you here, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. You've had some fantastic guests. I'm feeling very privileged to be one of them, my friend.
No. Thank you. It's always an honor, to have all of you guys that want to share, and tell your stories and your points of views. It's really, I believe it's really important for people to know, about, the life of the martial artist, the life of the person, and about the art as well. So really, I really appreciate that you take the time. I know you're a busy man, so you take the time to be here.
Oh, you're welcome, mate. You're welcome. It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
So you already have some people saying hello, maybe some familiar faces. Let's see. Aha! West Idol.
How you doing, buddy? Yeah. He just texted me, actually. Sorry, mate. I didn't get a chance to get back to you. He was. Oh, did I? I don't know. Yeah. Another fantastic martial artist, Kenpo representative. Yeah, we go back. Dare I say it, Wes? Over 30 years. Yeah.
Really? That long, huh?
Yeah.
Wes. Are you sure? Oh, there you are.
That's right. Yeah, that's. I don't know if anybody out there could see it. That's Wes kneeling on the floor. You're a very young man, very young Wes, and I'm to his, I guess, to his left there. My arms folded. Mr. Speakman, Mr. Pick, one of my all-time, Albert Conejo, fantastic. And it was actually in that picture too, all the way to the end there as you're looking at the screen on the left-hand side is a guy named Bernie Drakes. He was one of my instructors in Jersey in the Channel Islands.
Wow.
Before I came to America. Yeah. That seminar was his first Mike Pick seminar. Yeah. Right. And I have a funny story about that, actually. I could tell you about that. Yeah.
Nice.
Funny story.
Talking about Jersey people.
Hey, Rich, how you doing, mate? Now, Rich and I go back even further. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, Richard was also one of my mentors back then. He was an excellent martial artist. Don't let his teddy bear exterior fool you, mate. He's tough as nails, that kid. Yeah, very excellent, accomplished Kenpoist martial artist. Been in it forever. Helped me out a lot back in the day. Yeah, actually stayed at his place. I think he said last time I owe him rent, right? Yeah, he did. He said last time I owe you Brye Cooper owes me rent. Well, it was only 20 quid back then. So you'll be lucky if you get a pint and a pie out of that, mate.
Okay, cool. So let's see. Salvador Sanavia says, "Good morning, Master Frank. Good morning, sir." Liam Brady. Hi, everyone from Ireland.
Hi, Liam. How are you?
Merv Orman says, "Salute, Brye."
Yeah, Merv, another UK, another old time. Well, I don't mean it like that, Been around for years. He was one of Mr. Parker's students in the UK. As Jackie McVicker, Roy McDonald, all those guys, excellent martial artist.
Beautiful. Wesley Idol says, "Cheers, brother."
Yeah, cheers, brother.
Jim
Looking good.
says, good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Wesley says, oh my, I guess you saw the picture.
Oh, yeah. That was 1980. Oh, it was either 88 or 89. I can't remember. I think that was the first Mike Pick seminar that we went to. We were with Mr. Conejo. Master Conejo took us up there.
Nice.
You can see there, there's the fifth degree in the front there with the shades on. Yeah, always looking cool.
I know.
Shout out to
yeah. I know the man. Okay, so let's see. Angela. Morning, Brye. Long time no see.
Morning, Angela. Looking beautiful as always.
Nice.
It's interesting. You expect a response, don't you? But it's text, so it's like, so there's a pause there. Hey, it's good to see you, Angela. You're looking smashing, love.
Damien Abbott, greetings from Exeter, Brye.
Greetings to you from Los Angeles, Damien. Hopefully we can get together this year if you're over in LA.
Nice. Wesley says, lots of love, 1991, he says.
No, it was before 91, Wes. And you know how we know our timelines? By our belt rankings.
Right.
I think I was a brown belt there, and second brown, and I got my black belt in 1990. Yeah. So
and here you're wearing a second brown. It looks like.
Brown, right? Yeah. So, hey, but we're not getting any younger, mate. So I'll just put that down to one of your senior moments.
Wes is wearing a blue belt back then. I mean, come on, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Wes was a blue belt back then. Well, Wes started with Mr. Conejo to the left of our picture there.
Right.
And then he came with me over to. He started training with me over at Larry Tatum's, and then he switched into the. Yeah, there you go. Well, is Wes there? No, that's one of the old. Actually, that picture I'm pretty sure is from a test we did, a black belt test. And that might have been when I got my first degree black belt from Larry.
1990.
1990, yeah. There's Clyde, Rick Jeffcoat, Rick's uncle, who's sadly passed away now, Sammy. Yeah, few old faces there. Mark Putoff. I don't know what happened to Mark, but he was a great martial artist. He's right there next to Jill on the left. In between
Nice.
Jill. Yeah. That was 1990. The Garage Dojo. That was pre-Green Street.
Right.
Good times, yeah.
Nice. Let's see who else is here. Catherine Sumter Guru says, good morning, Master Frank and Master Brye. Cheers from the Pacific Northwest.
Good morning, Catherine. Cheers to you too.
Angela says, thank you, looking dashing as always.
What is it they say, actors? Flattery will get you everywhere, Angela. Yes. I'd love to see you again in the future. Somebody was saying on I think you're on your podcast, I think it was Cliff, you guys might be doing a reunion?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I know I was the came before it, but hopefully if you ever do, I'd love to get up there and meet everybody.
You should be there. We're trying to bring in the people who were on Green Street, the studio. So you were there. Yeah,
we opened it. Rick, Larry, Rick, and myself. Yeah.
Right.
Well, Larry opened with the teachers there. Yeah, Rick and I, and then.
I said we're trying. They're trying, and they invited me. So I already am part of the guys, huh? Sorry about that, Cliff. Cliff is putting it together. So, yeah. I'm going to see if I can make it, because right now we cannot go across the border. It's still shut down. Yeah. So hopefully it will be okay by fall. Ronald Briones says, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Okay. So usually when I bring somebody in, I always ask if you can give us a brief, like sum it up, comment about your background, your story. But before you do that, we have another familiar face here.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Hey.
Back on the island. Living the dream, my friend, living the dream. Scott, another fantastic Kenpoist, great representative of the art.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And he was actually the first Kenpo man that was on this podcast. and it all started from there. The first
Right on. Right on.
the first one was Catherine. She's a screamador, and then
Nice.
and then it was Scott, and then it all went, just exploded from there. So anyway, give us a brief, tell us your story a little bit about your background. How did you start? How did you get into Kenpo and all that, please?
Well, I started my martial arts experience in Liverpool, England, and I started in Shotokan karate, and I did that for a few years, and then I left England in spring of '84 and went to Jersey, the Channel Islands, where you've been in the UK. And when I got there, and I loved Shotokan, I was a 7-day-a-week guy. I loved it. It was my first martial arts. I was 18 when I started, so I was, mature enough to understand kind of a bit more what was going on. And when I got to Jersey, there wasn't any Shotokan schools there. There were other karate schools, classical Japanese schools, and so on and so forth, but there was no Shotokan. So I was kind of and I had a job. I got a job as a kitchen porter, seasonal work in a hotel in Jersey, Hotel Christine it was called, and cleaning pots and pans, doing all the the janitorial stuff. It was 1984. Anyway, there was a guy who worked in there. He was a barman. He was a bit older than me. I was only 18, and 18, 19, and he kind of put me under his wing a little bit. He's like a big brother to me. I didn't know anybody in the island. I had no money. I just, I just worked. I spent all the money I had until I got a job. I knew I'd get a job. And anyway, he took me under his wing, and he comes to find out we both like martial arts. And he said, "Oh, well, yeah." So there's no Shotokan. He said, "Well, I do this thing called American Kenpo, and if you want, they do a couple of afternoon classes because we only had our afternoons off then working in the hotels.
Right.
You come on down with me. I'll take you down to try it out." I said, "Okay." So I went, and it's we talked about this the other day, I think, and it was in this little church type hall, in this little tiny basketball court, of which there are videos of, because Mr. Parker, when he would come over, we taught a few lessons in that hall. Well, you come down the corridor, and as I was coming down the corridor, I could hear all this. I'm like, what the fuck? And I turned the corner, and as I looked down towards the end of the room, there was a guy with his back to me, instructor, and he had 2 brown belts either side of him. One of them was actually Bernie Drake, who you saw in that earlier picture at Barbara Hale's Mike Pick seminar. That was Barbara Hale's studio, by the way, where we were at for that picture. And another one was a guy named Ian. I can't remember Ian's last name now. Both of them had come to America, actually. They came regularly to Mr. Parker's studio to study. Anyway, I walked in, and they grabbed him both arms, and he just took him down. I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, that's Tony Martin. That's Tony, myself, Richie Matthews. Yeah, fantastic martial artists, both of those guys.
Rick?
Is that what?
Is that Rick? Wow.
No, that's me on the right of the picture. Tony Martin, who's one of Mr. Parker's black belts out here, at Larry Tatum Parker black belt, and he came for a visit. That picture was taken in Jersey in the Channel Islands, and then the guy on the left, the far left, that's master, one of my Kenpo masters, Richie Matthews, who you're going to have on your show again. I think you guys doing a Zoom seminar.
Rick Matthews, yeah, Richie, right?
Richie, that was 1980. Oh, I think it was 87, maybe 86, maybe 87.
You're wearing a green belt there, huh?
Yeah, so that's how I timeline it, because I came to America, I was still a green belt. I took my brown with Mr. Parker. So that would be 87. Yeah. Wow.
That's a nice picture, man.
Yeah. It's 34 years ago now, almost. Yeah, so I walked in, and the guy who was doing it, that was my first instructor. He was actually, I didn't know what it was at the time. It was Prince of the Tiger, is it Prince of the Tiger? The 2-man? I always forget the bloody names now. But anyway, he became my first instructor, Roy McDonald. He was a great instructor. fell in love with Kenpo immediately. Well, I loved karate. When I got into martial arts, I fell in love with martial arts. It was, it was something that I it's part, it's part of my story. It was the first time I'd ever been a part of something. For me, where I grew up, there was nothing. It was there was no malls or anything to play or anything. It was just hanging out on street corners, really. So,
right.
When this karate studio opened and I started doing Shotokan, I fell in love with it. It was, and I was naturally good. I was good at it. How we are. Like, show yourself. You just fall into it, don't you? So yeah, Roy was my first instructor, and I stayed in Jersey till the end of '87. I trained with Graham Lelliott too. Was one of my instructors out there. Not as much as Roy, but because Graham there were two different schools. And, occasionally I would go out and train with Graham, who's out here now, as you probably know. He's been out in California for a few years now, good few years now. Then I left Jersey December '87, and I arrived in America January '88. So, I had Christmas in England, and then I came to. And how that happened is when I met Tony Martin, the guy in the middle of the picture you just put up. He was actually a Brit. He lived on the island of Jersey too. Before I got there, actually, he'd already left and gone to Tony in the middle there. He'd already gone to the United States.
Right.
So when I met him, we kind of hit it off, and he said, I still remember it. I remember him saying to me, he goes, you need to leave. You need to leave and go to. You need to go to the source. Come to America. And so essentially that's what I did. And it was through Tony Martin that I got hooked up to stay at the Ed Parker studio, live in the Ed Parker studio for a while, because people used to do that back then. You'd come and they'd let you stay on the mats. Oh, well, actually you'd sleep in the private rooms, So that was then I got here in January '88. Mr. Tatum had left the school then. He'd gone off and started his own thing. And, so they were in transition, So Mr. Parker, he would come in on, I can't remember, somebody will correct me. I think it was Thursdays. He would come in and teach advanced classes.
Thursdays, right?
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, I couldn't know. Well, I was a green belt, so you had to leave back them days. When they started the advanced class, everybody had to get out, But he put his arm around me one day and he says, "No, you stay here. I want you to stay here." He goes, "Old Frank's told me all about you," because I was training with Frank Trejo back then too. I would drive. I had this old Plymouth Slant 6 I'd bought in Miami and drove up from Miami, and I would drive to the Pasadena studio 2 or 3 times a week and train with Frank kickboxing. Because I'd boxed in England. But I wanted to do some kickboxing here in the US, so I started training with Frank for that. Then I'm just going to give you a quick timeline, quick speed through. Then I left the Ed Parker studio, went to Tennessee for a little while, came back, and then I hooked up with Larry Tatum, who I'd met in Jersey in 1984. When I first started, look at us all. We all look so young there. That's so funny. Good times though. They were great times. I think because of that transition, you know what I mean. And then, that was me getting my 2nd degree black belt kick. Get a little bit of air in there. Got my feet off the ground. Larry used to really hit you too. Yeah, he would. I'm sure he still does, but he would sink that in. Yeah, but we were in great shape, So I started with Larry in the fall of '88, and went up through. I got my black belt through him. Larry got my 1st, 2nd, 3rd from Larry. Then I left there and I was teaching in another school. Rick had also left. He was opening schools. I was helping actually him. That's me too. That's a mule kick. Billy Blanks taught me that kick. Yeah. That was one of Billy's. Yeah. I was already really flexible. I had great kicks and stuff, but training with Billy Blanks, I ended up training with Billy in this period. So I spent years training at Billy's.
Nice.
And I learned a lot from. Oh, that's on Change. Yeah, that's the short film Larry did of Will Change. I'm sure you're all familiar. Yeah. Sure. It looks a little bit like what the hell? What's his name there? What's the famous actor I always thought he looked like? Robert Redford. He got the Robert Redford look going on there, doesn't he, LT? Yeah, that was me. And Michael Demas. I can't remember everybody's name. And I know Michael Demas is on the far right. I don't know whatever happened to Mike. I think he might have stopped training. And yeah, a lot of the guys who were in that. Actually, Wes Idol was on that too. I should have sent you some pictures of that, because there's some pictures of me and Wes on. He was actually one of the dummies on that. Clyde O'Brien was in it too. That was done in 19. I think that we did. Well, we did. I'm pretty sure we did that before Larry opened his Green Street studio. Change, because I think the studio was opened in, I want to say 91, 92.
92,
91,
probably, right?
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, so then I ended up with Larry, spent years with Larry, and then I, moved off. In the meantime, I was training with other people and stuff, getting exposed to, that's the Conejo Kickers. That's Albert Conejo there, my Grandmaster Albert Conejo. Yeah, he was one of the most influential men in my martial arts career, I have to say. Yeah, nice. He's, he really, I met Albert when I first came out here. He always tells this story too. In January '88, I had a really thick accent. Liverpool accent,
right?
And so I would teach it. I was living in the studio, Mr. Parker's studio, and I would, open the door at 10 in the morning. I would close at 10. I had no money. I was starving to death, to be honest with you. I was living on charity. Every so often there's a bar that they would all go to, like a burger bar type thing. It's called Flaky Jake's, and they would all go down the street. Oh, you heard about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd all go down the studio, not always, but they'd go down to Flaky Jake's, and then, I could eat the condiments. I had no money. I would just eat because they had free salad, you know what I mean? And then somebody would be generous and maybe buy me something to eat. But it was, I was 23. I was durable, But I met Albert at Flaky Jake's because he was teaching out at a school just across the street around the corner. Greg Wilkinson, I want to say. And he would meet. They all knew each other. I'd not long be here, so they'd all meet at Flaky Jake's, and that's how I first met Albert Conejo, Sifu Albert Conejo, and he invited me to start coming over to work out with him, which I did. And he said to me one day, he said, "Hey," he goes, "Cooper," he goes, "How long you been here now?" I said, "About 3 or 4 months, something like that. I can't remember." He goes, "Really?" He goes, "Because I can't understand the fucking words you're saying." I swear to God. Then well, it's funny because I would teach students in the private rooms. They started giving me I started getting paid a few bucks, you know what I mean, to teach at Mr. Parker's. And I would always look at these kids and I'd be telling them what to do. If it was just basic stuff, just upward block, inward block, out. And they would just look at me, Frank. And I never understood. I couldn't think, what does it mean? And then one day I went in the back, although it is something interesting too. Money is the universal communicator.
Right.
So I went in the back and I grabbed a $5 bill and I walked in and it was these 3 kids and I said, "All right, listen, the first one of you gets this form, right, gets this $5 bill." And all of a sudden they were like, but it comes to find out, excuse me, they couldn't understand me either. Because my accent was really thick. I was talking like that then. I was talking so fast, you know what I mean? They just didn't know what I was saying. So, yeah. So that was back then. And then I went from Larry. Like I said, I spent years at Billy's. Because I moved to the Valley. And there was a lot of great martial arts in the Valley at that time. Yeah, that was when I was training with Billy Blanks too. Yeah. I was still doing my Kenpo, but, we were doing hence the white pants and stuff. Because Billy taught Taekwondo. Among other things, he has a lot of experience in other stuff, but I went from there, and then
we got some comments. Let me just
go ahead, man.
We have a lot of people. Let's see. Richie says, "Brye, our old stomping ground, La Buvette, Bat Hotel, Soleil, La Colibri." Did I say that?
Colibri. Yeah, it was so close. Yeah, I thought there was an M in there. Columbri. I thought it was the Columbri. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, there was 80 that time in Jersey. I'm sure you've heard it before. Excuse me, mate. I've got a frog in my throat. Was a great time to get into Kenpo, because it was like, for me, it was the little did we know. But it was sort of the twilight of Mr. Parker's career, because it wasn't that long after he passed away, sadly.
Right.
Yeah, so he when he came out, a lot of the material was already, I got access to, the books and stuff. He loved the island. The Americans loved coming onto the island. Larry loved it too. Like I said, I met Larry in 1984. He was out there when I just started. So we had, it was a good time. It was a great time. Great martial artists, really keen and eager, and some Ian Clifford. Oh, that's right, Ian Clifford, Bernie Drake's and Ian Clifford, and with the two guys who grabbed Roy, and we were all really eager. And it was a great time. I know it's going to sound really cliche, but it was a great time. The 80s. It just was this.
It was.
It was just all just kind of went click, 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 and then when you're on that island, you're just literally living to go to work, party, and do karate. That's all I was doing. 7 days a week. That's all we did. And maybe many of those. Yeah, but we were young, right? You live as a filters everything back then, doesn't it? James, hey James, how are you?
Okay.
Yeah, I might be all over the place a little bit here, mate. But yeah, so hey Kevin, how are you doing? Bryson, yeah. Mr. Mills, Kevin Mills, he runs the BK, as you know. For those who don't know, he runs the BKU in British Kenpo Karate Union in the United Kingdom, and along with his wife Jenny, two very accomplished martial artists. Oh, look at that! Yeah, me and Kevin and
there he is.
Bob Rose. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, he looks the same on both pictures, huh?
He doesn't age. He hasn't aged. He's a little bit heavier. We all got a little bit chunkier, but yeah. I think he looks better than I do now, my age. But 97. That was 97.
Nice.
It's like summer 97. Yeah. That was good. That was good times. I just taught a black belt class that night. Yeah, it was fun. That was fun. I got invited to teach it by Mr. Rose. Yeah.
Please have Senior Master Rudy on and talk about Lima Lama development in history in the early days. We will definitely try to do that. Yes, sir. Thank you for question. Noted.
Good system.
Yes, of course. Let's see. Richard Matthews says, me, you, and Tony, the Northern Rocks.
Well, yeah, we're all from the north. I'm from Liverpool. Tony's from the Manchester area. I'm quite sure we're in Manchester. And then Richie's from Newcastle.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Wes says Thursday was advanced class. Underbelts could watch one class and not see another until they got their brown belt. Interesting. Yeah. A lot of people don't know this.
I didn't know that, to be honest with you. I never knew that. Yeah. When I was there.
But a lot of people know that advanced class was closed down and people couldn't join the class until you were a brown belt, because in the 90s and after Parker's passing and all that type of exclusiveness, just look for word, was lost, right? So it was more like open. They lift the veil and it was open for everybody. And then we got the video, we got all that stuff. But before, it was a little more like secrecy or discretion. I don't know how to call it. Not being rude.
Yeah, I don't think it was secrecy, Frank, to be honest with you. It was more a case of I understood at the time why we couldn't watch, you know what I mean? I was fortunate that he allowed me to sit in and watch, but it wasn't so much, in my opinion, it wasn't so much that it was secrets. It was just too advanced for, you were stepping up, or that was the goal, is to take you to the next level. You're in an instructor's level now at brown belt, and they're going to start teaching. We talked about this the other day about, how you can either do it by rote, just go through the motions, or you can do it simultaneously with the correct subtext, the correct drive, you know what I mean? The intention, I should say.
Right.
And so and so you're an instructor, and so I'm not sure if this is why. This should be my rationale behind it. Because you're going to go on now and start teaching, and you're wearing the black gi, which did have significance back then. They wanted you to know that what you were teaching wasn't just a quick, let's get him through his orange, purple, green belt. You know what I mean? Purple, blue, green belt, like we see today. Which because back then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the other thing was like you didn't know what you were going to learn. So there was this excitement about learning a new technique or getting new knowledge. And we don't have that anymore.
No, it's
I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just different.
It's different, and I think that goes back to be honest with you, I think that goes all the way back to 1990 when this is just my opinion. Look, there's some great senior instructors out there with a wealth of knowledge. I've been around some of them, and I've been fortunate to train under some of them, you know, like Larry and Mike Pick and Frank Trejo, and they have a plethora, wealth of knowledge. But, you know, at that time in 1990, when Mr. Parker passed away, everything, you know, split. People went their different ways in time, you know, started their own organizations, federations, blah, blah, blah. And in my opinion, you know, Larry Tatum once said something to me years ago, and, you know, and I think he's right. He said, you know, Brye, they didn't get the lesson. And what he meant by that was there was a lot of people out there. I think this is what he meant, and it was why I took it, interpreted it, is that we're teaching this stuff at you know, advanced levels, you know, which is 3rd and 4th degree black belts. At an advanced level, you're a head instructor, you know, that didn't have the knowledge they would have had if they just done the, you know, advanced classes with either a Larry or an Ed Parker or a, you know, a Mike Pick, or I'm only using these names because these are people, Frank Trejo, that I trained under, and there are plenty of other fantastic seniors out there, but I never had well, actually not one more. I did Ron Chappelle. I spent a few weeks with doing some of his stuff, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, but
they never had that lesson. And then, of course, you know, it was this perfect storm of like, then we got the internet, and then not everybody, you know, started well, Larry was the first, wasn't he? Not through the internet, which was very innovative, and fair play to him when he did the Technique series, which went worldwide. And that opened the doors again for American Kenpo. Yeah, that's me and Rick. That's on the set when we did the Technique tapes. Yeah, that would be 90. That's on the set too. Yeah. We were all quite flexible back then. Yeah.
Feeling a kick, man.
Yeah. So yeah, it was that time there was this big transition, and so people were going in all different directions, and there was a great, you know, they said there was some great instructors out there, but there wasn't. We'd lost the high Indian, and he'd only sort of really just come back on this. I got the impression of it anyway, especially at the West LA studio. He hadn't been teaching it there for a while. He started teaching because Larry had left, I think, if I remember correctly. But so we had a lot of how can I choose a better word? I think people were learning the techniques, learning book learned. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. Like, I'm learning to step forward with your right leg, deliver right, and they're doing it, but they weren't getting the advanced lessons of why you were doing it. You know, and I'm not just joking, I'm doing it to stop his mass, which you are, and I'm doing it. But what else? What individual strikes? Why are you doing that? Why are you using that sequence? Right. And that's important stuff that I never got that delivered to me. Nobody taught me that. Nobody. I had to go seek that out.
Right.
That knowledge. The first person that did at that level, in no disrespect to any other of my teachers or anything, was to be honest, was Mike Pick. I'd never come at it from that combative approach of like, oh fuck yeah, this is serious shit. You know what I mean? It's not. You can't because it's a self-defense system. It's not a sport karate. It's not jiu-jitsu. It's not aikido, judo. It's not kickboxing, and that, you know, or boxing. It's self-defense, and so it's not. You're not learning to fight. You're learning to defeat a fight. You learn to stop a fight. Yeah, and so
you just touched a very important point that I always say to people, and it took me years to figure it out, and it was basically working with the police, because a police officer doesn't want to get into a fight, right? They want to use force, but they don't want to get into a fight. They don't want to spar somebody, right? They don't want to square off and fight. That's not a good idea. Legally, practically, it's just not a good idea, right? That brings in more trouble. So it's about controlling, right? Using force to control the aggression or control the person. And so the mindset should be not about fighting, should be about solving the conflict. And I think Kenpo, it's an amazing tool that teaches you that, right?
It does.
And that's why you have techniques. And I think the most important thing that if you don't get trained this way, you don't get, it's the tactical approach of Kenpo. And I think you have that in your street combative system. We haven't got there, but I think that I've seen very few of your material. There's not much out there, but I've seen some of your videos and stuff. And that's what I like. And I actually, when I teach police officers, I teach them variations of 5 swords or shield and hammer, but it's actually confined, more confined. You don't do this wide movement, so you have to teach them to work here, because they also have a firearm that they need to protect, right? So they cannot expose the side, like in a neutral stance with the right hand or the right side forward, because they're exposing the gun. So they have to, and they have to move short, like the stuff you do with your the maces. I think that's actually let's see, we have something here that it's really nice the way you do it. I really like it. Let's see.
I'll put more stuff. I think I told you the other day we were going to launch SKS out last year, sorry. And everything was ready to go, and we started doing more vids, and then the COVID hit. But hopefully this year we'll get more material up, you know. What is this one? Oh, this is from
see that stuff right there.
Yeah. You got to be close, you know. If you that's just a little intro we did to introduce the series, but if you'll notice that how close it is on the initial contact on the dummy, or even actually here with Nick. That's Nick Paredes. He's one of Brian Hawkins' students. Great martial. He actually started his martial arts in Shotokan too. Nick's was a great martial artist. Yeah, really good fighter. If you notice that, I know I'm bouncing them off a wee bit because you kind of have to. What these videos were for was a guy named Mike Mandeville, who's a writer director, was going to do a film called EMP. And it never actually panned out yet. Maybe one day it will. And so these were just some stuff I was showing that we could do in the movie. So some of it's a bit big like that. Although that actually is me showing you how kind of not to do it. See that? Now, see the first contact there is my elbow, my lower case, right? Well, that's Mike picked explaining this to me. Is your fighting range is your length of your humerus. So if I've got a contact on you there with my humerus, you can see it. I mean, again, it's just a lot of this is just for the movie, so it's a bit flashy stuff. Because at the end of the day, that first chop alone should put him down. You know, you're not, as you said, you're not wanting to get into a fight. You want to stop a fight from occurring. You know, but so you close the distance, and it forces you then to work outside your outer rim, to work from within your outer rim, I should say, as opposed to working from outside your outer rim, which is just hyperextended. Here is where I have the most structure,
and I really appreciate that, because, like I said, when I teach the police, I don't teach from a neutral stance. I teach from a ready stance because of the gun. Fighting. So you're square up, right? Yeah. And that's basically a lot of what you're doing. I don't close the fist because, well, it's the police, so they have to have the hands open to. If somebody sees,
and it's interesting too. If you're telling them you're going to fight, I don't close until the contact. You know, when we sorry, go ahead. I cut you off there. Go ahead.
No. It's very similar stuff. You know, the way you're moving, it's actually you know, it makes a lot of sense when you have. That's what I'm saying. When you have that street approach, that realistic approach, you realize you cannot do stuff like this, that it looks nice in the dojo, right? And you can do all that stuff, and it sells, you know, and it shows the art, which is cool. I have nothing against it. I like it. But when you're trying to apply it, going into that confined, like, instead of being like, because I see that you're squaring off a little bit when you do that. So you're more so to have that framework and to do the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, it might look square, but it's a neutral bow, because it's all in the timing too. You have to, obviously, your timing. Timing is just how do we measure time from distance, right? So if your distance isn't correct, you're not gonna have your AP ability to perform at optimum. You're gonna perform,
but I see but you're much closer because
you need that contact penetration. You need that time on target.
Space, right?
That, yeah, the energy transfer, that time on target. You know, the skeleton's a conduit, right? You want to hit that and get that stuff to transfer through us, because you're trying to. I mean, for me, when we have SKS, I have SKS, and then I have AKK SKS, which is American Kenpo Karate hybrided with the SKS theories and principles and drills and sets I've made up and stuff like that to teach my approach to it. I mean, it's not the you know, there's some great other tactical Kenpo combatives out there too. It's just my approach using what I've learned over the years and certain philosophies, you know, of how to make somebody capable quickly. You know what I mean? How do we raise the learning curve? And, you know, I discovered many years ago, you know, I read, I don't know if I told you this, the reason all this started years ago, I started working on the SKS stuff years ago. Excuse me. And I read an article that, I don't know if I told you, in a Black Belt magazine. Remember Black Belt magazine back in the day?
Of course.
Or am I showing my age now? You remember it? Yeah. We were a subscriber. You get your free Black Belt t-shirt, you know. God, am I going back a bit now? But anyway, there was an article in there, and somebody had wrote in, it was like a 3rd degree black belt from some karate system. And they may have made it up, but it was just, you know, they printed this. And basically the story was, the guy wrote in and said he'd been training karate for years. I can't remember what system or whatever, but and then he got into an altercation and basically got his butt kicked. And so he writes into Black Belt magazine, "Dear Black Belt, you know, I'm really disheartened, and I put all this time and effort into it and years of training, and I've done my tournaments and, you know, and won trophies and blah, 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 blah." And then he goes, you know, and then when it actually came to actually use it in real life, it failed me. And I read that article and I knew instantly, Frank. I said, I knew. No, it didn't fail you. You failed it. And the reason you failed is you didn't have the knowledge.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the physical, because all the things he was talking about he could achieve were all physical. Not all, you know what I'm saying? It's mental, but you hadn't trained the mental side of it.
Mindset, right?
Yeah. And so what I started to do is, now not everybody wants to get into full contact fighting, whether it be grappling arts or striking arts. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't want, not everybody wants to get into a boxing ring or something like get punched in the face. But they want to learn self-defense.
Right.
And I'd say 90% of the people that walk through the dojo doors, you know, because they don't know their capabilities yet. You know, that's why they're in there. You know, if they had confidence, a lot of them won't, they'll go buy a gun or something, or you know, or they feel pretty confident in themselves on the street. Well, so what I did is I thought, okay, we have to integrate. Obviously, Kenpo's my foundation. The mind. How do you get control of your mind? How do you make that paradigm shift if you need to? When to make it? You know, because there's another thing we see a lot even in self-defense training. Because like we talked about, self-defense training is not karate training. It's not sport training. It's not. You're not training. Like I said, you're not training for a fight. I mean, you're going to train, you're going to fight because you're going to get in condition and you're going to get used to it. But it's not. It's completely different. You're training to stop that from happening. And the only way to do that is with the violence of action. That is the amount of violence that is required to injure somebody or remove their consciousness. Well, that's very hard for like people to do, because we're not all knuckleheads. We're not all walking around looking for fights. We're not. You know, I'm not. I want to have a good life. You know what I mean? I love to laugh and have a crack. You know what I mean? Right, it's the last thing you want, you know. And that's us. You know, we've been doing this a long time. And as you get older too, you go, especially like, you know, you start getting your injuries start happening. You go, I can't do that like I used to do that. Well, just think that's us. So think about a person that walks in as a beginner, whether they come into AKK, SKS, which would be because they want to go from white to black belt and do it as like we did it because they want to get into the art, or if they just want to do SKS classes and just learn self-defense stuff. We focus a lot, or I focused a lot on what we call what's called soft skills.
Right. Right.
The hot, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. The hard skills are the bang, 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 bang. The soft skills are all in here.
Right.
You know, so how much, if you think back on it and you go, man, how many years did I spend training, sparring, kicking butt, getting my ass kicked, learning these lessons, training under these different people. How many lessons did I have where they started to explain the psychology of combat? I had zero.
Nada, nothing. Yeah, agree.
I'm training. Yeah, and I'm training American Kenpo. I'm not training Shotokan. Not that that's not effective on the street, because it is.
I understand what you're saying.
Right. But so you get your civilian comes in, and the thing that brought them in the first place is what's going on in here.
But there's a thing here that needs to be said. Like, for example, Mr. Parker created the gun techniques or the knife techniques. That was back in the 60s. And back in the 60s, if you see at police defensive tactics, they were in diapers.
Yeah.
The tactics were not really there yet. And even in modern warfare, you see Desert Storm changed the rules. Then
yes, Afghanistan,
and then back to Iraq, because now it's urban wars, right? In urban environments, in cities and stuff. So now close quarter combat. So now you don't have long rifles. Now you need small rifles and pistols. And before you didn't have pistols at war. You have this, because you were in the battlefield. So and the same thing happened with the police. Like a good example is the problem that happened back in the 80s. It was actually when they started using the rotating marks, the targets. Remember what they did? So they did 2 shots and then holster it back. So pop. And then after that training, you got a lot of police officers that got killed because they were conditioned to do pop and then holster back, and it wasn't enough. Sometimes 2 shots is not enough. Whether you hit the target or you don't, some people can take it and still shooting, right? And then they had to invent the follow through, like pop up and then just look around with the gun and do the follow through and the sole position or whatever, all the positions that you have in the firearms now. And the same thing happened, I guess, with self-defense, right? So it's not that it doesn't work, because the principles are solid, and the system, the geometry, the basics are solid, but we just needed to adapt that. And I think what you're doing with what you have done with the Street Kombative System, it's a very good example of that. So really, I'm always looking for that stuff, and I guess you are one of the guys that think out of the box, Kenpo wise, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the thing of this is what you were talking there about police tactics. Gun, our defend against gun tact. Remember, we've all seen the old videos with, I think it was with Dan in Sano and in the Sano on the 21 foot rule and blah blah blah. And what changed is those tactics at the time were what they were because society only required that.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
What I mean? It's changed now. I mean, I remember when we had the North Hollywood shootout. It was just around the corner from where I lived. That changed everything again, because people have changed. People are changing. It's a different world today. You hit a good point there on the not so much on the first Iraq war, but definitely after 2011. That's 20 years ago. We have had all these young men, go to war for us, and have been millions, and have been trained in combat. And just like after World War II, these people come back and they need an outlet, and so a lot of them get into martial arts or law enforcement,
right? And
they've been trained combatively in the military. So the standard is up here now. If that makes any sense, So 3 things I feel that changed the landscape, besides the wars, is MMA. I wrote it down here. Is UFC,
right?
And the rise of the internet. Ability to put things on the internet. It changed everything. Some great tactical combat instructors now have got some fantastic stuff on the YouTube. And so it forced people to learn. So we got into this societal thing now of we used to walk around feeling safe. And then if you look at last summer, that's over now. That's gone. I mean, it's been gone. It's been because we've been having problems here in America and around the world. It's going everywhere. The world's gone nuts, hasn't it? So you go, well, how do we? There's our website. Yeah. Thanks for putting that up. That's streetkombativesystem.com.
The reality factor, right?
Well, that's the R factor. Yeah, we work. It's called the R factor. Yeah, and the reality factor is basically. It's reality-based training, you know what I mean? But again, we put a lot of emphasis. I put a lot of emphasis and done a lot of research and wrote a lot of stuff on the mental constituents, you know what I mean? Which I feel are ignored. Although book 3 and 4, I think it was 3 and 4, were dedicated to, you know, before especially physical and mental constituents. I mean, you can't really read book 5 without reading those books and having a conceptual understanding of what he's trying to say. I mean, even Parker said in there, go out, study the arts, find out, you know, I mean, and all arts. He wasn't just talking about martial arts. He was talking about the sciences, you know, psychologies and stuff like that. And you have to do that you don't have to. I'll take that back. I'm sorry. If you want to get better at anything, knowledge is the key, right? So that's what I did. I went out there and I started putting things together and thinking, how do I do these? How do I flatten these or help flatten social buttons, you know, like in conflict situations where people, because, you know, you don't feel the punch. The punch is not in a violent confrontation. If it's going to happen and it's 100% going to happen, what's the first thing you feel? It's not the punch. It's the fear.
Fear, of course.
Yeah, adrenaline. It's the first thing. It's psychological, and then everything else makes you go. You've either got the hands on the edge of the cliff, or you're just, you know, ready to go, or you've took off. You know what I mean? And so that's a psychological thing.
Right.
It's
and if you're not,
so how
it's going to wear you down. If you're not trained, it's going to wear you down.
Well, it's that, and also too, what happens is in a situation like that is unless you're highly trained, or you know you're doing it for a living as a law enforcement, military, doorman, somebody like yourself who's teaching constantly, so we're constantly training it and feeling it.
Right.
But for those who aren't, you know, what happens in a situation like that is they go immediately into, into considerations. You know, you'll start Q&A in it. Is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Am I going to get into a fight here? Can I win? Oh my God, he's big. I don't know. Is she still with me? She's not. There's not my kids with me, do I? All this stuff is going on in your head.
And
well,
Mr. Parker said it. The first consideration of the fight is what? Acceptance.
Acceptance. You got to accept it. Well, how do you accept it? Because if somebody like you, myself, and yourself, who've been doing this for years, and other martial artists have been doing it for years, well, we accept it because we've been training it for years.
Right.
But if you're new to self-defense, and even if you're new to, see, I'm not a big believer. It's like, you know, when you do a yellow belt test, everybody passes. If they're good enough, fair enough. Right. When I started coming up, I saw yellow belts both in Shotokan and in Kenpo fail.
Right.
The standard was higher. I mean, now I'm not saying it because we got commercial and people have a living and they've got schools and you got to make money. I understand that. And I know it's going to be controversial and I'm probably going to get a bunch of bullshit for it. But my thing is, if I've got 6 months, it's 6 months, or it used to be, I'm not sure what it is now. If I've got 6 months between belts up until you get up to your brown belt, right? In 6 months, if you're coming to the studio or training with me, even personally, 3 to 4 times a week, you should be shit hot by the time you take that belt. And what I mean by that is this: you don't just know how to go, you know, it's a grab or a push, delayed, let's say, for our first technique, you know. Think about that technique and it's loaded. That technique alone is loaded with information, and yet people just go, oh, I just want to go whack. I just want to hit him. Or everybody comes up with a different variation of it to make it look more fantastic.
Right.
And you see it, and there's hundreds of videos on the internet with it, hundreds. And there's not one, maybe I'm wrong, that explains exactly why you're doing what you're doing as a white belt beginner when you're first learned technique.
Right.
How can that build confidence?
Give me a second. A lot of comments and we haven't comment on people. Yeah. So Richard Matthews say the train hard, play hard 80s. Great times, mate.
Yeah.
George,
no pads back in the 80s, mate. No helmets back in the 80s.
Catherine says fantastic photos.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. Thank you.
Begelis Drosos from Greece saying hi. Hello. Okay. Hans Hesselman. Hello, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you.
Yeah. Alexander Richard Mesquita. Hey, dude. What's up? Yeah. Damien says, when we spoke on the phone not that long ago, you slip right back into the original accent and create a 2-hour call into 60 minutes. I had to lie down afterwards.
That's funny. Nice one. Yeah, you know me. I like to talk. I do. I like to share information. Is what it is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rossini says, thank you. Yes. Yeah. Mario Alonso says hi from Houston. Hello, sir. Hola.
Hola.
John Ward, greetings from Ireland.
Hello, Mr. Ward. How are you? I don't think I've ever met John, but I know who he is. Yeah.
Awesome. He says, Angelo says, hey, Francisco, how you doing, dude? You look great. Alex, man, you need to be in the podcast, my friend. I'm going to send you a message. You're the man. Merv Orman says, Mr. Parker's second home found everyone was so into Kenpo international competition at the hotel. We friends and working his stuff. We in the UK would always travel to Channel Islands.
They did, yeah. We used to have it was like the Mecca of Europe, really. It was like everybody's location points. I was fortunate. We had when I was there, Larry came, Ed Parker was there, Mr. Schulte, Rainer Schulte came. He was still in Europe back then. He would in Germany. I think he was still based out of Germany. He would come, and of course, when these people would come over for tests or what have you. Oh, excuse me. All these other people would come from the mainland, from Ireland, from the UK. It was really special. It was a great time. It was, everybody was very united back then.
Hans Hesselman, is it like compounding your moves? He's asking. But before we answer, let's say Richard Matthews says, brilliant, Brye and Frank, solving the conflict is the mindset we should be promoting. Yes, sir. I agree. Angelo Rossini says, thank God for Tabata Bice and Tatum DVD sets. Yeah,
that's true.
They did a lot of good, I guess. Rafael Herrera from Spain. Gran saludo, Maestro Soto y compañía. Salud. Angelo Rossini, nice of balancing your opponent using forearms and elbows in close. Yes. Sensei Emmett says, hey, guys. Okay, we have a lot of people saying comment. John Ward says the truth, it's always controversial. Well, I guess. Angela says, you're also talking about guns being far more lethal now than a revolver. Yes. Than most people were using back then. Well, not far more lethal, because a gun is a gun, and same caliber in the revolver and the pistol, but way more tactical and easier to use, and it's fast.
Yeah, and more people have them. And most people now, they didn't shift into I know Los Angeles anyway, they didn't shift into semi-automatic pistols till the early 90s there. A lot of them, just prior to the North Hollywood shootout, were still carrying revolvers. They didn't have AR-15s or M4s in their vehicles. And, you and I were talking the other day about that, about firearms and stuff like that, and how, I'm sure Angela's. In fact, I know she's a shooter. I know she's shot firearms before. But when you do that kind of tactical training with firearms and stuff, it really ups your game in your Kenpo world.
It does. It definitely does. It's a big difference. And once you train tactically, I remember when I went to Team Bueller's Academy, I've been there a couple of times. But once you start going into the tactical stuff and moving around with the gun and shooting and reloading and kneeling down, getting up, but shooting the targets in the car and all that stuff, your mindset, after 2 or 3 days doing this and shooting like 1,500 rounds, your mindset changes. And then you said, oh my God, I even thought, martial arts, I mean, I am still a martial artist, but definitely if you don't use guns, you don't understand what really lethal means,
No, you don't. I say this. Yes, you're right. Look, they're classed as deadly weapons for a reason. They make you dead. You know what I mean? They're not designed. Fighting knives and guns, they're not designed to injure. They're designed to kill. You know, and so anytime that you come across, God forbid, I mean, I've seen things. Some people know this, but you know, I've seen people shot. I've seen people stabbed. You know, I've seen and killed. You know, and it's final. You know, there was no. Oh, I just got stabbed. Oh! Call the cops. Call the ambulance. No, it was just like.
Yep.
Done. Yeah, this was in West Hollywood years ago, back in the 90s, and then I seen this little boy. Unfortunately, when there was a lot of gang stuff going. Great to see you, Keith. One of my old buddies from the Jersey Channel Islands. Still lives there. Good guy. Top lad. Liverpool lad. Hey, Peter, how you doing? Peter Miller. He has a academy, Miller's Martial Arts in the UK. He's you really like Pete. He's a fantastic martial artist. Grappling, striking arts, all that. He's really, really talented. Yeah. Good to see you, Pete. Yeah. So it changed. Richie Brye, keep real Kenpo interview by Bro Kenpo. Good. Thanks, Richie. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah. So it does. Then does the society?
The society country you live in dictate the Kenpo that you are taught. In a way, it does. Yes. If you live in a country where firearms are second nature, will the Kenpo you are taught be very different to a country without the prevalence of guns? Or should we? Well, you know, in Mexico, we're not allowed to have guns or carry guns, but still, we have a lot of gun problems, right? With the cartels and all that stuff. So definitely, you need to consider guns, and you need to understand when you're thinking in self-defense scenario that you better be nice. You need to stop the arrogance and you know, that ego thing that you're a Kenpo man and you can beat up everybody, because you can't. Especially, I mean, here if you run into cartels, you get what, 50 millimeters, you know, machine guns carried on top of a truck.
50 cals.
50 cals. What are you going to do against a 50 cal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, actually. And who asked that question? Who was that again, Frank?
Fergus.
Hey, Fergus. Well, my viewpoint on that is this: look, you know, what's the number one consideration of self-defense? Environment, right? Environmental awareness. What environment are you growing up in? So I didn't get into firearms till later in life. You know what I mean? I'm certified now. I'm an instructor now. But the reason I brought it up is not so much to say go out, shoot guns, you know, like it's nothing sexy about it. It's just very practical. The reason I brought it up is because then one can understand, or hopefully, that when you're working with something that is so deadly, it just changes your mindset. Now, you don't have to have that gun in your hand and hear the bang to do that, but you have to have that mindset. You have to find a way to tap into that mindset.
Yes.
Actually, I'll rephrase that again. It benefits you if you can. You don't have to.
Exactly.
Because the situation dictates response, and your situation may be different than ours. So, you know, when I'm talking about firearms, I don't pack, I'm not carrying, and it's where I live, it's very safe. You know what I mean? If you go a few miles up the road, it's quite kind of not so safe, you know. But your Kenpo training needs to have an R factor. It needs to be realistic. By the time what is second round, Frank? We'll get to the gun techniques. By the time you get to second round, you have to have a full understanding of the concepts and principles behind what you're doing, because you learnt the punching and kicking. How long does it take to get to brown? I don't know. 5 years ago, you know, it should be like it's about 5 years to second brown, something like that, 5 or 6.
At least three and a half.
It used to be around about that 7 to black, wasn't it? You know, it was for me anyway, 7 and a half. But so around about that. So anyway, whatever. You know, you've been doing it for a few years. Like you've been hitting bags, you've been hitting each other. You know how to do all that. But again, I'm going down to the self-defense aspect of it now. And one of the things that firearms training does for you, and again, you don't have to do this, but there's no hesitation, and everything has to be fucking spot on.
Yes.
It has to be, because there's no room for error. You know what I mean? I don't teach gun techniques to people unless they've fired guns. I just don't. I've made that a policy now. I don't do it. I don't teach knife techniques to people until I've taught them at least some of my knife sets and my knife stuff, or my viewpoints on blade work, and that's a step that everybody should make. Well, you don't have to, but I think I told you that the other day. There was Mr. Parker said that. I mean, Kenpo's a knife art. He was talking about an interview he did. I think it was something about with Mike Pick again, or not with Mike Pick, but something on Mr. Grandmaster Pick, because obviously his specialty was the knives and stuff. And Parker talks about Kenpo's a knife system, and we go, okay, well, what does that mean? I have to start carrying a knife now? No, you don't. Not at all. But you should train with it in such. But if you're going to train with it, you have to have that kill mentality, because you're carrying deadly weapons. Now, when you get to an advanced, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Kenpo is a brutal art. It is.
You get to an advanced level, anything that you're doing really above. Honestly, look, from day one, delayed sword is delayed sword. Deadly. Can you kill somebody with delayed sword? 100% you can. 100% you can. You just make a couple of adjustments. I mean, the first time I saw Mr. Pick do his version of it was just he dropped, and I don't know if they're still using this version, but dropped in, struck, and grabbed the neck here and just went bam, and just boom, broke it right at the end of the move. So it was very quick. Just done. You're not getting up from that. So you don't have to train that way, because we're all, but then again, this is somebody who's been is from US Marine, taught special forces, did all that, and it's the fighting arts. You used to say martial means military, military means war, war means kill. So how do you make that shift? I just want to put this in just real fast. I know we're running out of time, just so people don't take it the right way.
Yeah, please.
Because I'm not telling people to go out there and be militaristic.
No.
I'm not at all. Not at all. But I am saying to you, find a way or a method, whether it's something like SKS or there are other people teaching the same similar stuff, that can help you in a conflict situation where somebody, God forbid, pulls a knife or a gun on you, that you can have the ability to perform at optimum. And that doesn't just mean developing your physical, it means more importantly, developing your mental. You have to develop. And so I can't develop my mental if I'm doing a knife technique, whether you think they work or not in American Kenpo. They're just ideas of motion, and they are a bit dated. But when I'm practicing in the dojo and I'm practicing somebody to thrust at me, I get caught all the time. All the time, because I'm changing it up. I'm constantly researching on the internet. If you have a strong stomach for it, go research it yourselves. There's plenty of video footage out there where you'll see real knife attacks and fights and gunfights, and it's not like what you think it is. You know what I mean? And you said earlier, sometimes and one round will put somebody down. Sometimes you're emptying your whole mag into that guy, and he's still, So when you're training these techniques, like a knife technique or a gun technique, if I'm doing, I grab that gun and I turn it over, and be honest, because I'm going to be rigorously honest with you right now. For years, I did those techniques for flash.
Right.
I made them work. Fantastic. Wow, well done. Oh, fantastic, Mr. Cooper. That's brilliant, or whatever. Or well done, Brye, and whatever. But the reality of it is when looking back now, if I was to do that for real, nobody's going to let me grab their firearm like that. The first instinctual thing, if I grab your gun, is for you to pull it back.
Yep.
And then
retain it.
I didn't train. We didn't. That's not in the technique. That's not in. Or if I do it behind you and I spin, the first thing you're going to do is react to my. What are you reacting for? That's not in broken rod. You're going to make me look bad. But you get what I'm saying.
Right.
So then you go, well, what am I training for? We put too much emphasis. I think sometimes you get too much emphasis on the flash of it of Kenpo, which is where it got a bit of a bad reputation, in my opinion. Instead of going back to what it was. And even back in the day, I think if Mr. Parker was alive today, he would have the same mindset. But even back in the day, I mean, I don't know, maybe some seniors could pipe in on a show later if they actually taught with that mindset. A lot of them actually came out of Korea and also, let's not forget, and Vietnam and stuff like that. So they had it, you know what I mean? But did they train the civilians in that mindset? And that's a hard thing to do. So real quick, I developed drills and button drills and certain philosophies to make it easier for the civilian to go.
Right.
Just get into
okay. Tell you one thing. we are past 10 minutes of our time.
Sorry, yeah.
This is very interesting, and I really appreciate all of what you're saying. So let's bring you back in. Let's do another podcast with you, if that's okay with you, if you want to do this, and we'll continue to talk about this, okay? But before we go, let me just share some things here. Okay, so this Thursday, we're going to have Maestro Joe Pasaglia, professor from Kenpo, Johnstown, New York. Okay, so be here. And also this weekend, we have the Kenpo Coffee Collaboration online seminar with Richie Matthews, Scott Gonzalez, Damien Abbott, and myself. Don't miss it. It's going to be good. Okay. I hope you all go there. It's a good initiative set up by Richie Matthews, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, First Kelly. Sorry that we didn't continue with your questions. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Maestro.
Oh, my pleasure, sir. My pleasure.
On the internet, they can look you where?
Go to streetkombativesystem.com, which we just actually get the website up now. Instagram, Street Kombative System. Facebook, Street Kombative System. We'll start putting, we don't have a lot of content on now because of the COVID, but you know, you can reach me through there. And if you know everybody wants any lessons, seminars, stuff like that, you know, even guys like yourself, I mean, that'd be great one day. We'll have to put something together, mate. When this COVID's over, we can all get on the mats and share our knowledge. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. This was a great podcast. It's really an honor. But we'll see you back here. We'll set the date right away. Thank you, everybody.
Definitely.
Take care.
Okay, cheers. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye.